The mole who wanted to know who pooped on his head. One day, when the little mole stuck his head out of the ground to see if the sun had risen, something happened. It was round and brown, looked a bit like a sausage, and worst of all, it landed right on the mole's head. "How rude!" shouted the little mole. "Who has pooped on my head?" But he was so nearsighted that he couldn't figure it out. "Was it you who pooped on my head?" he asked the pigeon, flying by at that very moment. "Oh, me? How could you think that? I do this," replied the pigeon, and splat, splat, a white, moist splatter landed on the ground right next to the little mole. It even splashed onto his right leg. "Was it you who pooped on my head?" he asked the horse grazing in the field. "Me? How could you think that? I do this," replied the horse, and plop, plop, 5 big, thick horse droppings fell right in front of the mole. He was so astonished that he sat down on his tail. "Was it you who pooped on my head?" he asked the hare. "Me? How could you think that? I do this," replied the hare, and rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat, 15 small round pellets bounced around the mole's ears. He jumped to safety with a graceful leap. "Was it you who pooped on my head?" he asked the goat grazing on the field. "Me? How could you think that? I do this," replied the goat, and splatterat, a bunch of a toffee-colored lumps rolled into the grass. The mole almost thought they were pretty. "Was it you who pooped on my head?" he asked the cow, who was chewing her cud. "Me? How could you think that? Moo, I do this," replied the cow, and splosh! A big brown-green cowpat splattered onto the grass dangerously close to the mole. Good thing it wasn't the cow who pooped on his head. "Was it you who pooped on my head?" he asked the pig. "Me? How could you think that? I do this," replied the pig. And floops! A small soft brown heap landed on the ground. The mole held his nose. "Was it you?" the mole started to ask, but stopped when he saw it was just 2 fat green flies feasting away. "Finally, I found someone who can help me," thought the little mole. "Who pooped on my head?" he quickly asked. "Just a moment," buzzed the 2 flies, and after a little while they said, "No doubt about it. It was a dog." Finally, the mole knew who had pooped on him. Bill Bernard, the butcher's dog, the poopy head. Quick as a lightning, the mole climbed onto Bill Bernard's doghouse, and pling! A little black sausage landed right in the middle of Bill Bernard's head. Happy and satisfied, the little mole disappeared back into the ground.